So just to make sure all of our listeners here understand what you're talking about, when you say buying a property subject to, what does that mean?
Typically, that's going to be subject to existing debt, and that may be bank debt, that may be private debt, but we're stepping into the position of the seller, making their payments for them on their behalf. However, they are still, if it's institutional debt, they are still on that as a personal guarantor. We're not assuming that debt. We're just, taking over their payments for them on their behalf. But we get the deed. We own the property.
Exactly. Well, who in their right mind would agree to sell you a property and agree to leave the mortgage in their name and trust you to make the payments?
Well, that is the key to figure out what their challenge is. And I do that in a lot of different ways through my negotiations, which I will define a negotiation as just a social conversation. But through that conversation, what are their needs? And let's just assume that they have maybe some financial troubles. Maybe they're in foreclosure. Maybe there's some medical bills. Maybe they lost their job. There's so many different reasons that somebody could be in financial turmoil, and the property could be perfect. It could be turnkey. So if I step in and let's just use a foreclosure example, somebody's behind on their payments. I'm able to come in, catch up their payments, start making those on time. It fixes their credit. It stops the foreclosure in that example, and they move on. If they have equity in a property, we may pay them out either all cash or we may pay them out over time. That's just case by case. But there's a lot of people that are absolutely benefiting by us taking over their
So what it
debt.
sounds like is a person that would be willing to sell their single family house specifically, subject to leaving the note in their name, is somebody that is stressed out and needs debt relief for whatever reason.
Correct. And in some cases, they may not even have any financial turmoil. It may just make more financial sense to keep that debt in place and get paid out the rest of the purchase price over time. Quick example might be a landlord that doesn't want to take a chunk of money because they're going to end up paying capital gains taxes or put them into a higher tax bracket this year. So stretching it out using an installment sale as well as taking over their existing debt could make a lot of sense. And they weren't in any kind of financial turmoil with their actual loan.